evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. And thank you for joining me live on A1R Radio. I'm the Urban Monk, and I want to talk tonight about a couple of little things we've discussed previously, which is how the mind really affects everything. So it's a bit of a recap. 2018, I was a functioning alcoholic, narcissistic, really sort of horrible kind of person. And I went on a 3,000-mile road trip across America in 33 hours. I had a few issues. I had hallucinations, which led me after my trip to realize that the brain can actually do things that we weren't really aware that it was capable of doing. So for a good part of that journey, I was hallucinating, and I drove for something like 3 hours whilst I was fighting off demons trying to get in my car. So part of my brain was driving on autopilot and kept me safe because it's something that I'd done for a long period of time. But the other part of my brain was accepting the influence of the demons and the tiredness or the drugs or whatever it might have been that happened at that time. Now, the point I'm really making is that there's two parts of the human existence. There's the 3D part of the three-dimensional part of the body that we all know as something. But as part of consciousness, really what we're doing is taking vibrational energy from the universe, and our brain then converts that into images. So if you see something, it's not really what you see, it's just energy vibrating. The laptop I'm talking to you from is not really a laptop, it's just a bundle of energy, atoms, molecules vibrating at a level that my three-dimensional body, my three-dimensional existence can identify as a laptop, because that's what we're told it's called. So bearing that in mind, we have to think about how the brain really functions and what it really is all about. And we've talked before about the fact that the brain is really only designed to keep us alive, but then it gets involved in stopping us from doing certain things to prevent us not being alive, if you like. And then we start to identify with that voice, that egoic mind, or that, well, Professor Steve Peters in the Chimp Paradox calls it the chimp, obviously. But it's that part of the brain that vibrates at a certain energy level that tells us not to do something because it's dangerous for us. So we kind of listen to that. And then it says, don't listen to that person because they're trying to control you. Then it says, do this because it will be better for you. But don't do that tomorrow because yesterday when you did that, it went all kinds of pear-shaped or tits up. So I'm trying to get people to understand that living in the present moment or living in the now means not identifying with that voice that was primarily, from when time began, it was there to stop us from dying while we achieved what we were meant to be here. But we start to identify and acknowledge that energy voice, that voice that says don't, because the past was like this and the future was like that. In the present moment, because that voice or that ego or that chimp is an energy vibration, like we all are, in the present moment, it can't exist, because if we're just concentrating on what I'm talking about now, or I'm concentrating on, let's say I rode a unicycle, it would take all my energy to ride that unicycle. And I can't remember what I'm supposed to say right now about the unicycle, but you can see the point I'm kind of get to. It would be groovy, man. You know, at that moment in time, you're on the unicycle. You're not thinking about, well, I've never ridden a unicycle before, and what if I ride a unicycle tomorrow and fall off? Falling off tomorrow is not groovy, but having never ridden one before, you're in the moment, you're riding a unicycle, it's groovy, man. Thinking about falling off tomorrow's not existed, doesn't exist. So why would you worry about that now? You'd focus on riding the unicycle. So it brings us back to that two parts of the brain, or two parts of our existence, the consciousness. We spoke before about the raindrops. We are all individual raindrops that land in the puddle or land in the river. The consciousness is the puddle, consciousness is the river. So we're all individual elements of consciousness until we become the whole. So the point I'm getting towards is it's in that point that I mentioned last week, where you can't stop your heart from beating, you can't stop yourself from breathing. So there's two parts. There's the subconscious part and there's the conscious part, right? The conscious part is how we think, feel, act, and react. The subconscious part is what keeps our heart beating, what keeps us breathing through the night. And what I wanted to say, and I ask you to take this on board, try and imagine or think about a time when you've watched an emotional movie, all right, or somebody's told you some kind of news that's bad news or quite upsetting. You think about that and then you start to cry. So your mind is capable of controlling the glands of the body. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to cry. The eyes wouldn't be able to emit water from them. So the thought that you had about that emotion controls the glands of the body. If you watch the movie, and I've done it recently, you watch a movie and something heroic happens or something really sad happens, and you feel that tingle at the end of your nose and your eyes start to well up. Well, you're not actually there. You're not there at the moment of that event, and 90% of the time it's made up by Hollywood or somewhere else where actors are portraying a sad scene. And yet you will react to that emotion, and it's only through your mind. Your arms aren't there, your legs aren't there, your body's not there. It's the mind that says, oh, that's quite upsetting. And then suddenly your eyes start to leak water. Imagine, or maybe some of you, and I certainly have, 20 years as a police officer, I've certainly come across this, where you get into a confrontational sort of situation where you become angry, right? You're angry. Your cheeks go red, the adrenaline starts to flow, you'll get all kind of muscular. That's the mind. Seriously, when you think about that confrontation, and the key word there is think about that confrontation, or when you're faced with that confrontation, the body naturally reacts, like it naturally keeps the heart beating, like it naturally keeps the breathing going. And if you were on the unicycle and holding your balance, I guarantee most people would say, oh, if I don't continue doing what I'm doing, I will fall off. And straight away, what happens? We fall off, because we're attracting, through the universal law, through the way we think, the falling offness from that unicycle. And so what I'm trying to say, and what I've been saying, I did the road trip, I was time driven, I had to get to a certain point in a certain amount of time, and missed all those moments that I could have enjoyed by being present. When I got back to the UK, I studied neuroscience. I realized or learned how the brain works with the neural pathways, neuroplasticity. It's one of the greatest things we've got, that we can actually manipulate and change by the way we think. If we're thinking negative thoughts, if we're thinking we're going to fall off the unicycle, chances are we're going to fall off. I've carried a tray load of glasses, and I've said to myself, oh, I hope I don't drop these tray of glasses, and suddenly I trip and there they go. We've all done it. Anybody watching today, anybody linking into this live or on catch up, you can say to you will know, you will understand that there's been times when you've thought, I hope I don't drop this glass of wine, and you've dropped it. I hope I don't stub my toe when I walk into the car, and you've stubbed your toe. It's because we're sending out a message to the universe by our thoughts. And thoughts are just energy, all right? And so back to what we said before, the whole body is vibrating at a universal level. We want to get back into the energy of the universal level. The way we think starts to vibrate at a different frequency or a different level. The more depressed we get, the more we think about those kind of things, the more we have anxiety. We send out images of anxiety. We send out thoughts of anxiety. So the universe sends it back, and we only vibrate at that level. So by being present, by staying on the unicycle and keeping cycling and not thinking about falling off or where you're going, we are in the present moment. We're in mindfulness. We are in where the universe says we're supposed to be, and any problem that will happen in the future, we will deal with it at the time that that happens. So thank you for listening. It's been amazing yet again. I'm sorry I've been walkabout, but here I am. I'm back. I'm back with A1R Radio, back in the saddle. It's great to catch up with you guys. And if you need anything or you want to catch up with me, click on Facebook on Long Road to Richmond, and I'll leave you with the thought of riding the unicycle. You look cool, just don't think about falling off. And I'll speak to you all next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.